Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the DraftKings Showdown slate for the NFL game on Sunday night. We do have a game between the Patriots and Steelers. Should be a very fun game to watch. DraftKings is putting out some pretty big tournaments for this Sunday night game. They had a huge tournament for the Thursday night game, had like a $3 million prize pool with $1 million to first. For Sunday night, they're doing an $800K tournament with $200K to first. So still some really big prizes out there. You guys seem to really enjoy my video for the Thursday night game, for the Showdown slate for Thursday night. Got a lot of good feedback. I will be doing these all year, pretty much for every Thursday night and Sunday night game. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to make them for the Monday night football game. I guess that's kind of to be determined. But we'll be doing them all season. We'll just work our way through the player pool. I'll be sure to hit on all the players that I think are good plays, that I think are playable. I'll be sure to touch on any expensive guys I like, any cheap guys I like. Value plays, I'll try and hit on those as well. And towards the end of the video, we will look at some different roster builds, build out a couple lineups, just kind of talk through this Showdown slate, give some of my thoughts, and tell you guys kind of where I'm going to be going. Before we do get started, guys, I would definitely appreciate it if you would drop a like on this video. If you are new to the channel, if this is your first time checking out a video on my channel, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you don't miss out on any of my new Showdown videos. I'm still going to be uploading videos for the main slate as well. I've already uploaded my video for DraftKings for the Sunday main slate. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to it down in the description. Also made a video for the Yahoo main slate. If you guys are playing over on Yahoo on Sunday, I'll leave that video down in the description as well. Let's go ahead and look at this Showdown slate. Most expensive player at the top is Juju Smith-Schuster. He is $11K if you want to play him in your flex, and if you want to play Juju as your captain, he is $16,500. So I think Juju by far is the highest projected player on this slate. Without Antonio Brown, he should just see a massive amount of targets. He was already getting a ton of targets last year. If we just go through his game log from last season, pretty much double-digit targets, it seemed like every game, if not every other game. The guy should just see a ton of volume. I'm sure the Patriots are going to key in on him, maybe even try and double-team him, which is a bit scary, but really I just see Juju getting at least 10 targets without a doubt. He's $11K, he's expensive, but he's worth the salary. He's a great receiver. He had a great year last year. He's probably going to put up even better numbers than he did last year now that Antonio Brown's no longer on the Steelers. So love paying up for Juju. There's good cheap value plays like 6K, 5K that we'll talk about that are playable. It's pretty easy to fit him in. Juju's by far my top option. I would definitely play him over James Conner. I'm not as interested in James Conner on this slate at 10-8. I think we could see him give some work to Jalen Samuels. I think some of that pass down work that went to Conner last year could wind up going to Samuels, which is going to take away a bit from Conner's value. Plus, he's also very expensive at 10-8. Like, I'd just rather pay $200 more, get to Smith-Schuster. I'd rather save and get to either quarterback, Big Ben or Tom Brady. Between Ben and Brady, it's very close for me. I think I'd prefer Brady just because I like his matchup a little bit more, but you could really roll with either guy. I think depending on how your lineup looks like if you play Juju at your captain, you probably want to play Big Ben rather than play Brady if you have the choice. If you have like a guy like Julian Edelman, who I think is a really good play, if you play Edelman in your captain, you probably want to have Brady in there at quarterback. But you might be able to get both of them in because, like I said, there's good 6K, 5K plays that project pretty well that should see some work. We'll talk about them in a second. Between Ben and Brady, though, I think I do slightly prefer Brady. But my favorite play is under them is Julian Edelman. I think Julian Edelman's one of the more underpriced players on this slate. The fact that he's $9,600 and like Brady, Roethlisberger, Conner, Smith-Schuster all way more expensive than him kind of baffles me. Julian Edelman, kind of similar to Smith-Schuster, is just going to see a ton of volume. Most likely going to get double-digit targets. Edelman got double-digit targets pretty much every game last year. When he didn't get double-digit, he was close to it, 7, 9, 8, 5 targets, one game, 8 targets against Minnesota. I expect the targets to be there. Pretty good matchup as well. I know Pittsburgh had a little bit of trouble covering Edelman last year, I believe. I think they put like some linebackers on him, which didn't work out. Edelman's going to see plenty of work in the slot, so might even be matched up with a linebacker, which is a bit of a mismatch, I would imagine. So Edelman's a really good play at $9,600. Projects very well for that salary. The volume should be there. I like him a ton. He's definitely one of my favorite captain plays because that extra salary you get rather than playing Smith-Schuster at your captain, like that extra $2,000 in savings that you could save, could be pretty big on a showdown slate like this one, where there's a lot of good plays at the top that you want to try and get in. Pretty much all those top 5 guys are pretty strong plays. Connor would definitely be towards the bottom of the list for me, though. But now let's talk about some of these mid-range options. So my favorite mid-range option by a pretty large margin is Josh Gordon. Now that Josh Gordon is pretty much confirmed that he's going to be playing and going to be on the team this year, I expect he's going to see a ton of volume as well, right behind Julian Edelman. Rookie N'Keal Harry is on the IR, got placed on injury reserve. So it's going to be Edelman getting a ton of targets. It's going to be Josh Gordon getting a ton of targets. Then you might see a little bit of targets go to guys like Demaryius Thomas, Philip Dorsett, whichever tight end is healthy for the Patriots could see a little bit of work. But I expect Gordon and Edelman to get most of the volume. Gordon is a guy that has just a ton of upside, an incredibly athletic receiver, has big play potential. Really like him at 7,400. He's another guy that just feels way underpriced. The fact that he's over $2,000 less than Julian Edelman. I know Edelman projects better, but Gordon still gives you so much upside for that price tag. I would definitely play him over Michelle. I'd probably play him over James White as well. $800 cheap, or White's $800 cheaper. I still think I'd prefer Gordon. Michelle's $600 more. If I'm going to play one of the running backs in this game, I think it's definitely going to be Sony Michel. Right now, the Patriots are 6-point favorites. And usually if they are favorites, that leans to Sony Michel getting more work. Usually when the Patriots are down and they're trailing, that's when you see James White on the field a lot. I don't think that's going to be a game script that favors White in this game. I think we're going to see the Patriots with a lead most of the game. So Sony Michel is probably going to get more of the running back work. So he'd be the running back I'd prefer, but still, like I said, I think I'd rather play Josh Gordon in that mid-range. Then we need to talk about the Pittsburgh receivers other than Juju Smith-Schuster. So we know that Juju's going to get a ton of volume, going to see a lot of targets. But then guys like Dante Moncrief, the tight end Vance McDonald, even a guy like James Washington for cheap, these guys are going to get a few targets as well. I think I do prefer James Washington since he's all the way down here at 5K. Pretty good chance that he's going to be the number 2 receiver. He's going to be the number 2 receiver over Dante Moncrief. Right now it looks like James Washington is projected to be the number 2 receiver, so he's most likely going to see more snaps than Moncrief. I like him a lot as a value play at only 5K. Pittsburgh's a team that throws the ball a ton, so these guys like Washington, these guys that are going to be on the field, they definitely make for really good values because Juju's going to see a ton of targets, but it's not like Ben's going to throw the ball to Juju every single time. Guys like James Washington, Dante Moncrief, these guys are going to see some targets as well. And like I said, Washington only 5K, really good value in my opinion. Should see probably 5-6 targets, and he's a very cheap option that I like quite a bit from the Steelers side. If you want to go to Moncrief, I think you can, but like I said, those $1,200 savings you get are probably going to be pretty key on this showdown slate. Probably going to let you upgrade from like going to Brady to Smith-Schuster, who probably projects for like 4 or 5 more points. So I like Washington quite a bit at 5K. If I'm getting exposure to Pittsburgh's receivers other than Juju, he'd be the preferred guy that I go to. And then looking on the New England side for the receivers other than Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman, there's pretty much 2 guys, Demaryius Thomas, 4,600, and Philip Dorsett, 3,800. These are kind of the next 2 guys up behind Edelman and Gordon. Right now, Demaryius Thomas is listed as questionable. It looks like he is going to play, though. He is coming off a ruptured Achilles, which happened last year. So there's a chance he's not fully 100% for this game, even though he is expected to play, which could lead to Philip Dorsett and getting a few more snaps, seeing some more targets. So I think if I'm going to any New England receivers other than the top 2 guys, Philip Dorsett would probably be the next best guy to go to. He is very cheap. He's only $3,800. He's not going to project for a ton of targets, but at that price tag, you don't need him to put up like 30 DraftKings points. If he gets you 10, 15 DK points at $3,800, he's going to be a pretty good value, and we could definitely see him do that. Like a game against the Chargers where he had 5 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Wouldn't be surprised if you get that out of Dorsett here. So as a value receiver from the New England side, I think the guy I want to go to is Philip Dorsett. From the Pittsburgh side, the guy I want to go to is James Washington. But then talking about the tight ends before we talk about some of the kickers and defense. So for the tight end situation, Vance McDonald's going to be the guy that gets most of the stats for Pittsburgh. He is very expensive, though. He's up to $6K, and I don't know if I want to pay that price tag for Vance McDonald. He's not going to play every single snap. They are going to give some snaps to the backup. McDonald still projects like pretty well to get targets, though. But at $6K, when you can get James Washington for $1,000 less, who might be on the field a little bit more than McDonald, I think I'd rather play Washington for 5K, so don't really see myself going to Vance McDonald since he's so expensive. On the New England side, I don't expect them to use their tight ends much. I don't expect their tight ends to get targeted much, I should say. But they're at least going to have to put a tight end on the field. It looks like Ben Watson's out. I believe Lance Kendricks is out as well, which is going to lead to either, I believe it's Ryan Izzo, young guy out of Florida State. I kind of know that because I'm a Florida State fan. And then Matt LaCosse at 2,800. Those are going to be the two guys that see snaps for New England. Right now, Matt LaCosse looks like he's going to be or wind up being the starter. He is questionable, though, with an ankle injury. And if he were to sit, then that would mean Ryan Izzo would probably get most of the tight end snaps. Can't really project Ryan Izzo for a ton of targets because we kind of saw last year whenever Gronk was out, it wasn't like the backup tight end was getting a ton of targets. Like whenever Dwayne Allen would get the start at tight end, he would kind of just block, wasn't really getting the ball thrown to him much. I kind of expect that to be the same thing here. I think LaCosse is a bit more athletic than Allen, probably has the potential to get targets. So if you want to go to him at 2,800, if he winds up playing this game, he will be the tight end number one, so he could be a value. If LaCosse is out, that could potentially open up Ryan Izzo, kind of Adam Shaheen 2.0, I guess you could say, only $200. Probably going to play plenty of snaps if LaCosse were to sit because they really have no other tight end available. So it could be a value, but not someone I would go too heavy on, especially because there's just a lot of question marks if he's actually going to see any targets. But they're at least in play since they're most likely going to wind up being on the field for a decent amount of snaps. But now let's talk about some of the kickers and the defense for you in the video, or before we build out a couple lineups. So for kickers, you got Gostkowski, you got Chris Boswell. They're fine value plays. If they kind of fit into your lineup, you can put them in, but usually I don't go too heavy on kickers just because they don't give you the most upside. Really, rarely do you see kickers in the winning lineup unless it's like a really low-scoring game that leads to like a lot of field goal attempts. So that would probably be the only reason I'd target the kickers if you think this game might be low-scoring, but I really don't see it being that way. I think we're going to see a lot of touchdowns. So at 3,400 for Gostkowski, 3,200 for Boswell, don't really see myself going there unless they just kind of fit into my lineup. I'd honestly probably play Dorsett for just a few hundred more. If LaCosse winds up playing, I'd probably play him because I feel like he just gives you a little bit more upside, at least has the potential to get into the end zone. Kickers usually score anywhere from like 5 to 10 fantasy points. Rarely do you get more than that unless they just just kick a lot of field goals, which would lead to not as many touchdowns being scored, which would mean a low-scoring game. So that would be the only reason I would really target the kickers. And then the defenses I really don't have much interest in. I don't think this is going to be a game where you see a ton of sacks. I feel like this could be a shootout between Pittsburgh, New England. Right now it's got a 49 total, which is pretty high. Steelers defense is 3,600. Patriots defense is 4,400. Really would only play them if they just kind of fit into your lineup. Don't feel like I really need to go to the defenses on this showdown slate. So let's go ahead and build out a couple lineups for you in the video. So I definitely want to do a lineup where we have Juju as our captain because I think he is one of the highest upside players on this slate. It's going to be tough to get a lot of the other expensive plays because when you go with Juju, you're only left with 6,700 remaining per player. So you're definitely going to need value. I think we start off with some value plays. I mentioned James Washington. I think he could be a value at only 5K. Whether you want to go to Demaryius Thomas or Philip Dorsett, I think if Thomas winds up sitting, that would mean Dorsett would become a really good value at 3,800 because that would make him the wide receiver 3 and he'd wind up having to play more snaps. So those are both guys you can consider. I think Washington right now is probably one of my favorite cheap guys. So let's plug him in at 5K. That gets us up to 71.25 remaining per player. So if we want to get at least one of Ben, Brady, Edelman, Connor, I think we can definitely do that. I do like Edelman a lot at his price, so let's plug him in there at 9,600. And now we're left with 6,300 remaining per player. You could go to a couple mid-range guys, like someone like Josh Gordon, who I really like at 7,400. Or you could maybe go to another value play and then plug in one of the quarterbacks if you want to do that. If you want to do with a mid-range play, a couple mid-range plays, I think going to Josh Gordon makes a lot of sense. That leaves you 5,750 remaining per player. If you wanted to get up to like Sony Michel, that would leave you 3,500. So then you could play the kickers, which, like I said, I don't mind if it kind of just fits into your build. Usually try not to do that though. I don't think we'd be able to get in another expensive play. Like if you wanted to play Big Ben, you would have enough to play Ryan Izzo. If LaCosse winds up sitting, then you could play Ryan Izzo. But that's still something we're waiting on. I'm recording this Friday night. We're obviously not going to have that news right now, so that's a bit of a question. Don't think you really be able to get up to the quarterbacks with this build. So if you went to Michelle, then you could probably plug in one of the kickers. if you went to Dante Moncrief, who will probably see some targets, but you're going pretty heavy on the Pittsburgh receivers, and then having no exposure to Big Ben seems a little questionable when you have 3 Pittsburgh receivers and don't have their quarterback with them. Seems like that's going to negatively correlate. But if you were to plug Moncrief in there, that leave you enough for someone like maybe Demaryius Thomas at 4,600 you could do. I'd say I'd probably go with like Michelle at 8K, and then that'd leave you enough for either Gostkowski or Boswell, or you could play Matt Lacoste, who could be a good value at 2,800. But yeah, that's a build I kind of like. I do also want to try a build with Julian Edelman. There is a $2,100 difference in savings playing him instead of Juju at captain, which I think is going to be pretty key for us. So let's plug Edelman in there. We can probably get Juju as well. Might want to try and get one of the captains, or one of the quarterbacks, whether it's Roethlisberger or Tom Brady. Since we played Edelman and our captain, let's go with Brady, because if Edelman has a really big game and it winds up being the best captain play, there's a good chance that Brady has a pretty nice game as well. So when we go Edelman captain, Juju, and Brady, that leaves us 4,800 remaining per player. So we're going to need some value. I mentioned I like Washington a lot at 5K. Then you could go to either one of the kickers. We could try to get Philip Dorsett in there at 3,800. That'd leave you enough to play. Can't get any of the backup quarterbacks. You don't want to go there. But you could go to Demaryius Thomas at 4,600. If you went down from Dorsett to maybe Lacoste as a tight end play at 2,800, then that would leave you enough to get in either James White or Dante Moncrief or Vance McDonald. You could definitely put White in there. Since you have Brady as your quarterback, if you're assuming Brady has a big game, could mean that he's throwing a lot, which could lead to James White getting some targets. So he could be a play at 6,600. We already have Washington in there, and we have Juju in there, so I don't know if we want to play Moncrief as well, especially since we don't have Big Ben. But if you were to put Moncrief in there, that'd leave you 400 in salary remaining, and then I'm pretty sure you could upgrade from Brady to Ben if you wanted to do that. But I would just plug White in there. That's another build you could do. But just going over this showdown slate, just breaking it down real quickly. If I'm paying up, I want Juju, I want Julian Edelman, and then I do like Brady and Roethlisberger. I think I'd rank Brady slightly ahead of him. In this mid-range, my favorite play here by a mile is Josh Gordon, and then you can go to Sony Michel as well. Moncrief, White, and McDonald are going to be more secondary plays. Like, they're not going to be guys, like first guys in my lineup. They're just kind of guys, if they fit, then I'll put them in there. But if I'm looking for cheap plays, I like James Washington a lot. I think you can go to Philip Dorsett. You can go to Demaryius Thomas. If Matt Lacoste winds up playing, he could be a really cheap play as well. If he's out, then that could potentially open up Ryan Izzo as a value at just $200. But yeah, guys, I think that's kind of it for this showdown slate. Just want to do a quick video on it, give some of my thoughts, look at a couple lineup builds. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below before you get out of here, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will link both of my videos for the main slate for Yahoo and DraftKings. If you want to check those out, I would really appreciate it. Going to be making a ton of NFL videos rest of season, so you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed so that way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. But good luck on the slate Sunday night, guys. Really appreciate you checking out the video. We'll see you in the next one.